You're listening to the Because I Said So podcast.
All right. How's it going, guys? Welcome to the Because I Said So podcast. It's a father and son's podcast.
Hey, and this time we're upstairs.
Yes, we're actually recording in the bedroom using GarageBand because typically we record on the iPad, but my iPad has been utilized pretty much all day and the battery is dead, so I am not able to do that. But
I don't know, maybe.
My wife, who is actually sick and long-suffering, is downstairs waiting for us to record. So this is going to be a quick show tonight. Quick show here on the podcast.
Only like 15 minutes long.
Yeah, maybe like 15 minutes at the most. But what we decided to do this week was, yesterday, the 8th of September, was the 50th anniversary of the original Star Trek series airing on TV.
Which
first
was
airing.
remastered and put on Netflix.
Quiet. Here's what happened. So, I never watched Star Trek as a kid, really. I remember late at night, I would stay up and I would catch it occasionally on the Canadian channel in syndication, because I grew up close enough to Canada that we got Canadian TV channels. So, I would watch that, and on occasion, not often. I wasn't like a big super Star Trek fan. I knew what Trek fans were like. I was a Star Wars guy, and usually you have to pick your poison between
And
Star
Doctor
Trek.
Who.
Between Star Trek and sorry, I had to take something out of my son's hands, if you heard that thing, and throw it across the
And
room.
Doctor Who.
He hasn't understood the concept of how noise gets picked up on the microphone. But anyway, yeah, I picked for the most part it was Star Wars. I did watch a little bit of Doctor Who, but I was not a big Star Trek fan. However, I'm familiar enough with the property to know a little bit about it here and there, just from being immersed in nerd and geek culture for so many
Make
years.
Star Trek pops.
They do have Star Trek pops.
Should see what pops they are.
We could look at some
See
point.
if they have the one of the second episode, not the pilot, because
Well, the pilot
that was
I don't
never
think aired on TV.
that never aired on TV.
It might have aired at one point, maybe in syndication. But here's the deal. So we decided to watch the original opening episode of the show called The Man Trap, which originally aired in 1966 on 50 years ago. And since the kids have not really watched a lot of Star Trek, I thought it'd be fun to see what they thought of what of the show itself. And let me just go over the storyline. The storyline is, it starts off in space, and you see and Spock is in command of the ship, and Spock's in the command of the ship, and Kirk, and along with McCoy and this other dude Darnell, they go to this planet, and they're beamed down, and it's occupied by one of McCoy's old girlfriends and her husband. Right? So McCoy's acting all bashful.
I know her name. I actually know it.
McCoy's kind of being bashful and nervous because it's an ex-girlfriend he's going to visit, right? And Kirk offers help by picking this like wheat stuff and saying, "Hey, you should bring her flowers." And he's calling it flowers. It's like this dry wheat. I thought that was kind of lame. Kirk's supposed to be this Lothario, and he doesn't seem to have any game at all for McCoy to kind of latch onto. But then they meet Nancy. And she appears to be different to each member of the landing party, right? So something's obviously up.
I can tell the name.
And then the credits open up. And Josiah asked me the question, how'd they do that? They didn't have computer animation in the 60s.
It's obviously CG. It is. It's remastered.
And they go, and I said, well, they had animation. And he goes, they didn't have CG that good. Do you know what CG stands for?
Computer generation, yes.
You know how big computers were in 1966?
bigger than a room.
Right. They were never used to animate in the 60s.
Exactly. There's no CG in the 60s.
About the size
So
of
that means that was a remastered version. It's worse than Star Wars.
Okay.
All the bumpers were completely animated, and they were not very good.
It was not CGI.
It was.
It was models flying in front of the camera.
I can tell the difference between models and computer-generated animation.
They had green screen.
No.
Yes.
They did do some chroma key stuff in that era.
Yeah, but that was animated.
Later on, Josiah says, CG was not that good in the 50s. Not even Tron had that good of CG, and that was in the 80s. This is remastered. So meanwhile,
was in the 60s.
Jonas is starting to jump on the bandwagon of, no, that's not CGI. That's not CG. That's a model. And in fact, Josiah is right. It is CG. They remastered them about 10 years ago, and that's what they have on Netflix. But originally, it was little models, and they shot them on
like Star Wars, which is what you had.
Models.
Like the original
Star Wars was models.
Where it was all practical.
So anyway, what did you guys think of the show? Is it the kind of thing that you'd want to watch again?
Yes.
Yeah? What about
Depends. I've seen more episodes of Star Trek, and they were, like, incredibly boring.
Uh-huh. Well, it's like a Western. You know, it's a Western. Did you know that it could be a Western? Because it's that idea of adventure, going out into the unknown, which is what the Wild West was about. It was unknown. And you had cowboys, and you had lawmen, and you had people settling, and you had all this, like, stuff going on, but it was in space. It was the same idea. Did you know that? Yeah. See, sometimes stories, they permeate different genres, sometimes types of stories. And it was an interesting, but now the whole deal was, what were you calling the character? The monster?
Mystique.
Mystique, right?
It was like a Mystique, but a monster.
Yeah, it was I was so happy that it paid off with actually what you could see the monster in its true form, and it was just as bad as I was hoping.
That was, Dad. You have a scarier He-Man figure.
It had like suckers for fingers, and it
had like this really small mouth.
Yeah, but it was like what it was?
Like someone in a costume.
It reminds me of Leech from Masters of the Universe.
That's what I mean. That figure is scarier than the character.
It was like Leech. Yeah.
But scary, but less scarier.
No,
yeah.
It's more scary than that. Like it's not scary.
Well, let's see what happened on September 8th, 1966. And so you can kind of get an idea what the world was like in 1966, okay? Now, 50 years ago, do you know who the president was?
A president?
The president of the United States. Do you know who it was?
One of them.
Well, it was Lyndon Baines Johnson from Texas.
What?
All right. LBJ. Let's see. On September 8th of 1966, there not only was Star Trek, not only did that premiere, but there were other shows like The Hero that premiered, and That Girl, starring Marlo Thomas. Yes. I only know about That Girl from history books. And let me see what else happened on this day. Nothing else really. International Literacy Day, which is weird because, one of the most famous TV shows ever.
On December 8th, Star Trek, the new science fiction television series from the U.S. network NBC TV, was broadcast for the first time on American television, with its first episode, The Man Trap, showing at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, following the premiere of NBC's Tarzan starring Ron. Who's that?
This reading of a Wikipedia page is brought to you by... Anyway, interesting fun fact. Do you know where William Shatner is from?
No.
He's from Canada, right?
So he's not.
And Star Trek, which stars Canadian-born William Shatner as Captain Kirk, had actually been televised first in Canada 2 days prior at 7:30 p.m.
And after that was,
Yes.
however, Star
All
Trek,
right,
which starred Canadian-born William.
Yes. Stop reading the Wikipedia page. Anyway, the 60s were weird. So, would you watch Star Trek again with me, Jonas?
Yes.
Yes, I would watch
I've
Star
watched
Trek
the
again.
newer movies.
Yeah,
I want to see that.
you nerds.
boring.
You nerds. All right, well, like I said, this is going to be a short episode because my lovely wife is sick and needs to get some rest, and we are in my bedroom at the moment, and she needs our bedroom back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign off now, and we are going to be back in another week with another episode of the Because I Said So podcast. Oh, I have set up a Facebook page for us. Like us on Facebook. Just look for the Because I Said So podcast, and you'll find the picture of me yelling. We have to do a new cover photo. I have to do a new cover photo for it, but you'll find us on Facebook. You'll find us on Spreaker. Subscribe to us on iTunes, because we are on iTunes now. And
Really?
yes, we are on iTunes. This is the 6th episode.
So I can buy it.
Well, you don't have to buy it. We're on iTunes. You can get it on the podcast app. We're there. We're right there on the podcast app. It's pretty cool.
All right, so I can listen to you.
Yes, you can listen to us.
Yay!
I don't know why you'd want to listen to us. You better listen to me on a daily basis. So, anyway, you all have a wonderful
Because
evening.
you said so.
Not because you want to.
Because I said so.
Don't steal my line! Ah! Have a good night. Or day. Or evening. Whenever you're listening to this, have a good time. Not because you want to, but because I said so.
Man,
Thanks for listening.
too fast.